This is Noah Gray, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, and you are listening to the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast.
And welcome into episode 46 of the Best Bell Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Bradley Stalder, your host this afternoon, Friday afternoon, a very rare occurrence. But today, I'm joined by Anthony Cervino of the FF Faceoff. Anthony's one of the best rankers year to year. Make sure you check out the FF Faceoff and Anthony's work there. Anthony, thanks for making it on. We're going to talk round by round worst values today. But before we get into that, tell me, how's your Friday afternoon?
I'm doing great. Busy. I got a show later on today, but happy to be here. This is like the perfect time for me.
Excellent.
Believe it or not.
This is like during the nap time, but as funny as it sounds, none of my kids are napping. So they're all upstairs watching on their tablets doing, I don't know, watching Toy Story 2 or so. Hopefully they'll
Mine's
last
at the grandparents. My son's at the grandparents, so I get a little bit of a break.
Nice. That grandparents are a savior. I have to say, I don't know what we would do. Literally, my in-laws are in our backyard. There's 30 feet of fencing that's shared between our properties.
Wow.
So built-in babysitting, got to take advantage of it.
Yep.
But
absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's kick it off. Yesterday, Andrew Erickson of Fantasy Pros came on. We talked about the best values round by round. But today is going to be the other side. The players we're avoiding, the worst values. And Anthony, we'll kick it off. I'll give you the opportunity to choose your most avoided player, the worst value from round one.
Let's see. The worst value from round one right now. Is it... I like a lot of these guys, so this is tough. But I'm saying right now,
right? They're all good players. We're there's a reason why they're in the first round.
Is it crazy to say Stefon Diggs?
Really interesting.
I know a lot of people, and for good reason, like are on the Stefon Diggs bandwagon here. But let me pull him up, and I go back to his career and looking what he's done since really breaking out in Minnesota, and he seems to be a lot closer to a back end wide receiver one than what he did in 2020 in Buffalo. 2020 was a wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game. Last year, the wide receiver 9 and the overall wide receiver 7 in his finish. But if you go back, 2019, wide receiver 24, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 14. That's dating back to 2016. So that wide receiver 3 season in fantasy points per game seems like the outlier where he's really a back end wide receiver 1.
Yeah, and that's his time in Minnesota, and that's what he did last year. He was missing the spike weeks that we had seen in 2020. He was missing those. He was always consistently your wide receiver 10, your wide receiver 8, your wide receiver 12 or 14. But and that's why you finished in the top 10 last year, because he was consistently a high floor type of player, but wasn't hitting those ceiling weeks. But looking at so he dropped, I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% of his spike weeks he dropped from the previous year. On average, those type of players do bounce back unless they completely zero out. So I have a little bit of optimism that he's going to get there. Stefon Diggs, there's a lot of love for Gabriel Davis. A few people in the comments, Jose is asking about Gabe Davis. Is Gabe Davis too high and up in drafts right now based on ADP? We'll get to Gabe Davis. Maybe we will, but might as well just talk about Gabe Davis for a second. Gabe Davis, as of a week ago or so, when I pulled up the ADP, was going as the... Oh, maybe I passed him already. I'm missing. Oh, he's going as the wide receiver. Yeah, 44.1. Okay, so he was going as 42.3 back on the 17th, wide receiver 20 overall. And Cervino, I can't get behind that.
Listen,
everything needs to go right for Gabriel Davis to pay off.
I'm a big time Gabriel Davis guy, but even at where he's being drafted is even crazy to me. So even though as high as I am on Gabriel Davis, I'm not going to have as many shares as I want. But like in best ball, this ADP is going to be inflated because people like me out there and other people who are looking for stacks, we're going to overdraft him just to complete that Josh Allen stack. So I think that's what's inflating his ADP in best ball.
And then the other follow-up, Scott Kobe is dropping in as well. Hey, Scott. Hey, Jose. Do you think Gabe Davis will eat into Diggs' production a lot? I don't know about you, Anthony, but I think that there's plenty of room to eat in this Buffalo offense. I think that Stephon Diggs is comfortably get his 25 to 27% target share. But we remember when Emmanuel Sanders was out last year, it was Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs eating and Cole Beasley eating. All three of them were getting 20+% target shares in this offense. I think that there's plenty of room for them to grow, but is Jamison Crowder going to step up? Is Isaiah McKenzie going to step up? Is it James Cook actually who's going to get a 12% target share in this backfield? We knew the Buffalo was being pretty aggressive about addressing a pass catching running back this offseason. So what are your thoughts on this pass catcher situation?
I think there's like what you're saying. There's enough in Buffalo for both Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs. Why? When you look at Joe Burrow last year and he supported Chase and Higgins, why can't Josh Allen have two wide receiver ones? So I don't think Gabriel Davis is really going to affect Stephon Diggs at all. Maybe touchdown-wise, because that seems like the one thing about Gabriel Davis. He's uber targeted in the red zone. But if we look at Buffalo's vacated targets, they had 622 total targets, 193 vacated, 184 of them at the wide receiver position. And I'm using Billy Muzio's table from the full-time fantasy. That's a 95.34% target share vacated at the wide receiver position. They're all not going to go to Gabe, but Gabe's going to get his, and then we're going to see these younger guys get theirs.
Yeah, there's going to be I'm really interested to see where the chips fall because rookie year, James Cook could be interesting. We know Singletary's not going to eat into that too much, and we don't project Dawson Knox to get more than like a 10, 12% target share. He's not a volume tight end. He's a touchdown maker.
Yeah.
All right. Good to dig into the Buffalo wide receiver room. You didn't hit me across the video there, Cervino, for that one. All right. Round 2. I'll take the lead on round 2. And then Anthony, I'll buy you time to pick one for round 3. For me, round 2, the worst value of your fantasy draft. And maybe this is a little controversial. Come at me if you will. But Mark Andrews in the second round. Mark Andrews in the second round. And we want Mark Andrews to succeed. We want Mark Andrews to be this touchdown maker, and he is. But we don't know which way this Baltimore offense is going to go. And we've seen the ceiling for Andrews, but he's being bought at his ceiling. For him to pay off second-round draft capital, you need him to repeat, and that means high volume passing for the Baltimore offense, which we can't bank on, and we need touchdowns to go his way, which we can't bank on. And the only thing that he has going for him is the target share. Looking at the target shares, Lamar versus Tyler Huntley, and that's what Scott is bringing up into the comment. There's a difference between his target shares with Huntley and with Josh Johnson than with Lamar. And we can say maybe Lamar will get hurt, maybe blah, blah, blah. No, like we have to assume that Lamar is going to play. And if that's the case, like we can't be uber bullish on Mark Andrews. I would be happy with him in the third round, but with the type of players that are going in the second round, give me Leonard Fournette, give me Saquon Barkley, give me T. Higgins even. Make sure you get your DeAndre Swift. There is no reason you should be drafting Mark Andrews over DeAndre Swift. There are league winners, and it's very difficult for Mark Andrews to be what you're paying for him to be at this point.
Yeah, I'm a big Mark Andrews guy, but this is another one with an inflated average draft position because of what he did last year. His career high previously was 98 back in 2019, had 88 in 2020, which is all fine. He finished as a wide receiver, a tight end 4 and tight end 5 in fantasy points per game. But all of a sudden, his targets jump up from 88 to 154. Can we really lean on that? Can we bank on Mark Andrews to get 9.1 targets per game again? So, yeah, I'm with you on him being overvalued here, especially in this offense. Like, it's not like Travis Kelce where he does it year after year. How about, I feel like Mark Andrews could potentially burn people almost the way Darren Waller has.
Yeah. Imagine you're drafting Darren Waller, but now in the second round. It's just, for him to pay off, it takes a lot. We know what Travis Kelce is. You mentioned it. He's done it year over year. He's been the tight end 1 since 2016, except for last year when Mark Andrews. But here's the thing. If we take a step back, Travis Kelce, 60% of his games last year were 15.5 fantasy points or more in full PPR. Mark Andrews only did it in about 42% of games. So there were higher spike weeks for Andrews, but you know what you're getting, and you're getting a difference maker at Travis Kelce at the back end of the first round, beginning of the second round. You're really hoping and praying. You're chasing the touchdowns and you're chasing the inflated volume from last year with Andrews. Okay, round 3. Cervino, hit us with your worst value in round 3.
Round 3, we're getting to that point. Like round 3 and 4, they're not my favorite rounds. So it all depends on how I'm building my team. So if I'm building my team with a lot of stability in the first 2 rounds, like taking less ceiling shots and more solid foundation, then the ceiling play would be AJ. But I think AJ Brown is being overvalued here, and it has nothing to do with his talent. It has to do with he comes with a slight injury concern, but what also concerns me when we talk about target share, his career high in targets are 106. His career high receptions are 70 and just under 1,100 yards. So back in 2020, when he pops as the wide receiver 6 in fantasy points per game, he had 11 receiving touchdowns. But if you look at those other 2 seasons, wide receiver 24 in that and fantasy points per game, then wide receiver 30. I don't know who A.J. Brown is, and it's not like A.J. Brown goes from Tennessee to like Kansas City. He goes to another low-volume passing attack. So we're paying for it. To me, we're paying for ceiling for A.J. Brown.
If there's a format to pay for it, as in best ball, but at the same spot, like if he zeroes out in some weeks, that could be a real dud. And we don't think that Jalen Hurts is an exceptional passer. He's probably at best league average.
He threw 16 touchdowns.
Yeah. Low pass volume. It's low accuracy, but at the same time, like some people will say, I'll be devil's advocate. Might as well be the devil's advocate. That's what Josh Allen was doing. His rookie year, he was running around like crazy, low pass percentage, etc. But you're only going to get a Josh Allen once in a blue moon.
There's only one Josh Allen. There's only one, even like Kyler Murray, who's actually a hell of a lot more efficient than anybody actually thinks he is. But I just don't know if that's going to be Jalen Hurts. But they got him the weapon now. They got him. Now there's no excuse.
And it's A.J. Brown is going to be running the J.J. Arcega-Whiteside and Jalen Reagor routes.
Anything's an upgrade over those guys.
All right. Scott asks, who in round 3 as a receiver would you take that's going behind A.J. Brown? So some wide receivers going behind A.J. Brown, Mike Williams, Michael Pittman, Keenan Allen, and DJ Moore. If I were to pick one, I'd go Michael Pittman. How about you?
Who am I taking over A.J. Brown?
Yeah, instead.
I would say I'm going to go with you with Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman did take a step forward last year with Carson Wentz, and I believe Matt Ryan is a massive upgrade over Carson Wentz. And this early training camp reports are showing us that really Matt Ryan is honing in on this offense. So if we saw that kind of a step up from Pittman last year, we could be looking at a middling wide receiver 1 ceiling for this kid.
Oh, I'm chips in for Michael Pittman this year. His median target share last year was 25%. Median. And Matt Ryan throws, he gets the yardage. His volume is always there. And the Colts bring him in knowing this. And there's also ambiguity behind Pittman. Like Alec Pierce, maybe. Paris Campbell, maybe. Like, who's the tight end?
The first time we really don't know. Mo Alley Cox.
Maybe it's Nyheim Hines who's the wide receiver too, actually. I don't know. But that's why I think Pittman, there's condensed target share, and we know that Matt Ryan will hyper target his number one. Yay. We agree there, Cervino.
Yeah, Michael Pittman's going to have a big year.
Woo. All right. Next, I'll take round 4. And the biggest avoid for me in round 4, and I've made TikToks about this. I have put it on the stream. I have, till the cows come home, let it be known, pounding the table. I'm moving the cameras. Everything needs to be chips completely out on Jerry Judy in the 4th round. Everything needs to be out. There's so many ways in which Jerry Judy can fail, and there's only really one way that he can succeed, and that's if he turns into Cordarrelle Patterson from last year. Like, the biggest jump we've seen in the last however many years from terribleness and fantasy irrelevance to fantasy relevance has been Cordarrelle Patterson, and that's the type of jump that we need. In fact, if you look over the last 26 games, the amount of 15 fantasy point games is the same for Jerry Judy as it was prior to the Cordarrelle Patterson breakout.
I'm with you on Jerry Judy. I'm completely out on Jerry Judy. The cost is way too much. I'd rather go ahead and get Tim Patrick than draft Jerry Judy. It's not even close. If I'm drafting any Denver receiver early, obviously it's going to be Cordarrelle Patterson. Otherwise, I want nothing to do with Jerry Judy. Let me go get Tim Patrick. Jerry Judy, granted, he's missed a little bit of time, but he has yet to break 10-point fantasy point per game threshold in each of his first 2 seasons. And I get that the quarterback play hasn't been great, but I know Tim Patrick has more wide receiver 2 weeks in the past 2 years than Jerry Judy.
I think it's realistic that Tim Patrick outscores Jerry Judy this year. I don't think it's outside of the range of outcomes. In fact, I have in my initial projections Cortland Sutton at 205 half-point PPR points, which is like wide receiver 15. I have Patrick at 163 and Judy at 144. Patrick is a touchdown maker. He's built to catch touchdowns in the end zone. That's just his body size, the routes he runs. Jerry Judy also, he can't catch the ball. He has a career 55% catch rate. Tim Patrick is up in the mid 60s. Okay. Right. Jerry Judy, if you remember his rookie year, he was one of only a few wide receivers in the history of the NFL to have over 100 targets and less than a 50% target share. It's unreal how bad Jerry Judy has been, not just at the route running, because we know that he's going to be like getting target separation, but even though he's getting separation, he's still not catching the ball. It's a bad bet for Jerry Judy when there are other players like Albert Okuegbunam or Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams or Greg Dulcich or KJ Hamler or Cortland Sutton or Tim Patrick. There's just decent players in this Denver offense, and for Judy to succeed, it's like threading a needle. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and I just think he comes from Alabama, and then everybody's all of a sudden going to be Julio Jones.
Yeah,
no, that doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately, it does not. All right, Cervino, hit us with your round 5 fade. Who do you think is the worst value in round 5 right now?
The worst value in round 5 right now. I see now we're getting into a round 5 where I like a lot of guys here. Mm-hmm. But
if you're on the clock in middle of round 5 and all these players are on the clock, you're definitely not taking.
Right now, gun to my head, DK Metcalf. I get he got paid, but that offense is going to be terrible. Like, we're looking at an offense that's, unless they go get Jimmy Garoppolo, which doesn't look likely, Geno Smith and Drew Lock, and Drew Lock had pretty good receivers in Denver. That really didn't pan out well for all parties involved. And Geno Smith, I get that he had a couple of nice games with DK Metcalf last year, but that's not a 16, 17 game stretch of being able to put up good enough passes for DK Metcalf to be a good fantasy performer. I just don't see it. This Seattle offense, I want nothing to do with it. Their offensive line, I think, is currently ranked 32nd by Pro Football Focus going into preseason. I want nothing to do with it.
And I think that he's still going to get your 26% target share, which is going to get at least like a floor. But to access the ceiling, you mentioned Geno Smith, career 60% completion percentage, about 50%, about the same touchdown rate as interception rate in his career. I did send a tweet out a couple weeks ago, and Geno Smith, his stats were bad. Like his counting stats were bad, but his efficiency metrics were okay. Like he was, I wish I could pull up the tweet. Maybe I can find it. Geno Smith actually retweeted the tweet. So let me see if I can find it. But he had decent efficiency metrics, and I'm wondering if I just don't want there to be a quarterback competition. Geno Smith is clearly, by all accounts, the better quarterback. I don't think Drew Lock deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL.
No.
But okay, here we go. My tweet July 15th, 2 weeks ago. Geno Smith, quote, was actually not bad. Among quarterbacks with 110 dropbacks, he had the highest adjusted completion percentage, 6th lowest turnover-worthy play rate, quarterback 3 in big-time throw rate, and quarterback 12 in yards per attempt.
I need to see it for 16 games. It's easy to do. I don't want to say it's easy to do it for a couple of games, but we see backups coming in today's NFL. They put a couple of nice games together, and then the starter comes back, and their number will be called next year.
And Scott here brings up a good point that Seattle, as much as they've got a few things against them, they have suboptimal quarterback play. We don't think that Geno Smith is going to be great. Let's not get carried away. Even the Geno Smith optimism tweet, let's not get carried away. You mentioned the bad offensive line, and then the play rates. Not only are they running some of the fewest plays in the NFL, but their rush rate is also going to be very high with Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker there.
Yes.
So the passing volume is going to be really low. Like I gave DK Metcalf a 26% target share, but that's only 140 targets in this offense over the course of 17 games. That's like 8 targets a game, and that feels high.
And he didn't get that in 3 seasons with Russ.
So yeah, it feels like DK Metcalf. But here, are you going to take Gabriel Davis or DK Metcalf?
Mate, Gabe.
Oh,
give me the better offense. Give me the better quarterback.
Did you think in 2022 we'd be saying Gabe Davis over DK Metcalf?
No, but he's attached to Josh Allen. He's attached to an offense that went through almost 700 times last year, right? 675, something very close.
Yep. All right. Yeah, DK Metcalf. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. But round 6, we'll keep moving. My pick here, once again, I'm harping on the tight ends. Maybe it's me fading the tight end position, but it's Dalton Schultz, 67th player off the board, tight end 6. And I'm just looking at what other players are still available to me on the board. We're talking about like Amon-Ra St. Brown available. We're talking about, I like Elijah Moore at this spot. I think there's some useful quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts. This is where Jalen Hurts goes off. Like I'm probably taking some Jalen Hurts at this spot. Either I'm going Kelsey, or I'm going like David Njoku and Gerald Everett at the end of the drafts. So for me to get tight end 6 back and the 67th, maybe the tight end ranking is okay. I don't mind Dalton Schultz as the tight end 6, but to draft him 67th overall or 66th overall, are there only 65 players that are more valuable than Dalton Schultz? I think there's way more than that.
Yeah, I like Dalton Schultz. I'm a Cowboys fan, obviously. I'm a little bit biased, but I can see why Dalton Schultz is going this high. Last year, tight end 5 in fantasy points per game, tight end
Right.
3 overall in PPR. And that was, he did that on a team that he shared a field with Amari Cooper and Cedric Wilson and CD Lamb and all those other weapons. Now, we don't know when Gallup's coming back. Jalen Thornton, unproven, even though he got a lot of volume in college, which could be good and could translate. But you have CD Lamb, Cedric Wilson, and Amari Cooper both off the team, and they brought in James Washington. So you could really make a case that Dalton Schultz is going to be like the number 2 receiver in this offense and see an increased target share. So I get it. But when we're talking, this is almost like if you're not drafting Mark Andrews, draft Dalton Schultz a few rounds later.
I can see like a path for success for Dalton Schultz,
right.
Like a 17% target share, getting him 125 targets. And I have him projected for 174 fantasy points in half PPR, which is about that spot, tight end 4, tight end 5. But I think it's less based on the ranking. I think the ranking is just fine. He's going ahead of TJ Hawkinson, which I think is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I do Dallas Goddard more, but like I think he's appropriately priced behind George Kittle, but maybe wait another round, like maybe a round or two. I'm not in on him like at where he's being tucked in compared to other positional players.
But you like him around later, like
probably round 7 or round 8.
Yeah, and I'm with you, by the way, on Dallas Goddard. If you look at some of Dallas Goddard's efficiency metrics, all he's missing is volume. If he had Dalton Schultz volume, you can make a case Dallas Goddard's the top 3 tight end.
Oh,
you look at how damn efficient he is with those targets.
He was the number 1 graded PFF receiving tight end last year. Dallas Goddard, if an injury happens to Devonta Smith or to AJ, like we saw him having a 26+% target share in more than half of the games post Zach Ertz leaving. Yeah. So this is a player that we've seen what the ceiling could be. And if there's just even a tick increase of passing volume, Dallas Goddard wheels up. Before we move on to your pick here in round 7, Anthony, Scott asked a question about CD Lamb and about whether he could have the Cooper Kupp year this year. Ooh, all right. You're the Dallas Cowboy homer here. Give us the CD Lamb insight.
A Cooper Kupp year of last year. I don't know if he can give us a Justin Jefferson or a Mark Chase year. I don't know what CD Lamb is. Obviously, 17th, 16th overall draft pick a couple of years ago, 17th overall draft pick. This is his first year stepping into that wide receiver 1 role. So the offense is right. The quarterback, I believe, is right. But is he now going to get that big time target share? He saw target shares of 111 and 120. Can he take another step up and get that volume? I believe CD Lamb needs volume to really break into that wide receiver 1 tier.
So let's look at over the last couple of years and the progression of CD Lamb. Like his median target share in 2020 was about 19.2%. And then in 2021, it was about 21.9%. But he was struggling with an injury himself. Gallup was injured. Cooper was injured. Ezekiel Elliott. Everyone was injured except Dak Prescott and Dalton Schultz. But we saw a trajectory of about plus 3% target share. So if he continues just even that plus 3, which is, I think, a reasonable amount to increase given vacated targets and progression as a wide receiver from year 2 to year 3, I think that that's a reasonable jump to 24 to 25% target share. And if that's the case, a 25% target share in the Dallas offense, which is a high volume and fast paced, 173 targets, we're talking about 112 receptions, 1,400 yards, 8-9 touchdowns, 262 half-point PPR points. That would be like the wide receiver 5 or 6 from last year.
Yeah, I'm treading lightly with CD Lamb.
I don't think Cooper Kupp at all. Like he's not in that realm, not even close. But as a mid-price. I think he's fairly priced. I don't think he's underpriced, overpriced. I think CeeDee Lamb is fairly priced at the beginning of the second round.
What I keep looking at, he had 7, including the wild card week, 7 games with single digit PPR points. And in the second half, and this can correlate, like you mentioned all these injuries in Dallas, Dak did suffer, I think, the calf injury, and he was really never the same. That offense wasn't the same going down the stretch, but like going from week 15 to 19, CeeDee Lamb's production literally went backwards game by game. 14, 11, 10, 8, 6, 3.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that had to do with the high ankle sprain that he suffered. But and we've seen wide receivers, even the most elite wide receiver. We saw that with Saquon Barkley last year too. The high ankle sprain really derailing his season, leading to Devonta Booker having as many rushing yards as Saquon in 2021. But yeah,
what CeeDee Lamb did against New England in week 6. What he did in the first half against Atlanta in week 10. If that who CeeDee Lamb is, yeah, I'll sign up. But I don't know if we really know who CeeDee Lamb is yet.
All right, hit us with round 7, Anthony.
All right, round 7, we're looking for the most, overvalued, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Most overvalued player.
So we're talking
here.
Picks 72 to 84.
72 to 84.
So this is like the DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Gibson, Drake London, Russell Wilson, Miles Sanders, Trey Lance, Renfro, Lazard, Michael Thomas, Pollard, Brady, and Kadarius Toney.
I have Christian Kirk here.
Okay.
I'm using the underdog data
in the last week.
If you want me to stick to your ADP, I'm more than fine to do that.
No, go for it.
But I think Christian Kirk, this ADP range is from 722 to 729 at underdog. And yeah, Christian Kirk is here. And as much as I like Christian Kirk, I think he's a very overvalued player. It's not just Christian Kirk that they brought into Jacksonville. They also brought in Evan Ingram, who still can't catch a football. Who's really being overlooked right now is Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is still on that team.
He is.
And there's a really good chance that he could lead that team in targets over Christian Kirk. And I get that, yeah, Christian Kirk cashed in. He got the money. And my thing is, when you see a team like Jacksonville shell out a lot of money for a guy like Christian Kirk, there's not a lot to attract the player to come to Jacksonville. So in order to bring in a free agent of any note, you're going to have to overpay, which is why Christian Kirk got paid.
Yep.
So I think he's going really a little bit high. I'd need to wait at least a round to draft Christian Kirk.
It is really busy in Jacksonville. I had trouble figuring out the target shares in my projections for them because they all have, there's no alpha on this team.
Yeah.
Like I have 13% of the targets projected to ETN. I have 17 to Kirk, 15 to Jones, 14 to Shenault, 11 to Ingram. There's no dominant player. And we have seen spike weeks from Christian Kirk, but that was under a Kyler Murray offense where we were hoping for Christian Kirk to break out when he before DeAndre Hopkins signed. But there's concerns that Kirk isn't going to step up as an alpha in this offense.
No, I don't think he's going to at all. I think he'll be a good fantasy player. I think he'll be really solid. But if you look at these other players going around Christian Kirk, Kadarius Toney, for example, or Hunter Renfro, Lazard, we know that there's some potential ceiling with Al. Give me one of those guys.
Give me Michael Thomas even.
Oh, yeah.
Give me the slant boy.
And he looks healthy.
Oh, baby.
And he's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
He's playing with probably chips and chipped off a lot of places. And even, I love Kadarius Toney at this spot, Michael Thomas at this spot, Drake London, I like at this spot. Even the quarterbacks, I don't mind Russell Wilson or Tom Brady at these.
No, especially
Trey Lance. Yeah. Okay. We'll keep going.
Wait, before we
yeah.
Lance, Brady, or Wilson, where are you ranking those guys?
I think it depends on who I took earlier.
Okay.
If I took Cortland Sutton, smash Russell Wilson. I want that stack.
Okay.
If I took Mike Evans or if I took Godwin, give me Tom Brady. If I didn't take any of those, I'll probably lean Lance, but it's any of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd prioritize stacking at that spot.
That's good. Okay. I just want, because some people be like, Lance no matter what, because of that rushing upside. I'm like, you went over Tom Brady, who does it every year no matter what.
Brady's got the 700 plus passing attempts,
Yeah.
you know, that even with a bad offensive line, even with questionable or questions about who he's going to be throwing the ball to, I think Brady still, you can't argue with passing volume. Round 8, let's keep it rolling. My pick is Clyde Edwards-Elaire. There are just so many ways in which Clyde Edwards-Elaire can fail in round 8, running back 28. I was happy about getting him in round 10 back in March and April, but he's steadily climbed. I think he's dropped a little bit. He was earlier in round 7, but still round 8, I think is too early. Jeric McKinnon. We may think he's old and crusty, but a 29-year-old Jeric McKinnon rattled off 4 straight or averaged 16 fantasy points each of the last 4 games that he played, including the playoffs. That's back end running back 1 in full PPR. And he not only did that last year, but he had 6 games, like 6-game stretch for San Francisco back in 2020 where he did that as well. Plus the questions of whether Ronald Jones is still going to be there. And like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I'd like to be in on him, but there's just ways in which he could fail. The Travis Kelce, the Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Sky Moore, the Mecole Hardmans of the world. Who am I forgetting? The Juju Smith-Schusters, all of, there's just so many weapons. Once again, he's not going to be involved in the passing game like we'd like him to be. And the rushing is just inefficient, and he's been struggling with injuries the last few years. He's not built to take on 20 carries a game. So there aren't a lot of paths to success for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even in round 8.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I actually have the most Clyde Edwards-Helaire I've ever had this season, because I never drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I just didn't believe he would return on his price. But now, even though we may think that this round right now is still too high, we're still buying into that same ceiling we were paying second-round draft capital for the past 2 seasons. So, he's still going a little overvalued, but like it's a lot easier to take to swallow this hit in round 8 and 9 than it is in round 2.
Absolutely. I think based on just himself, but as I've mentioned before, there are players I like in this round a lot better too. If I'm going with a running back in this round, give me Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Give me Kareem Hunt. Yeah. At least we've seen Kareem Hunt have running back 1 upside, even with Nick Chubb in the lineup.
Can you imagine if the Chiefs never moved off of Hunt?
They'd probably be in a lot of trouble as an organization, but from that perspective. But it was pretty ugly back then. But if they suspended him for a year and he stayed on the team, that's one way to look at it. Yeah. All right, hit us with what is it? Where are we in? Round 9 now?
Round 9. We don't have to look far for this one for me. It's Chase Edmonds.
Ooh,
I want nothing to do with Chase Edmonds. Last year, he was supposed to be the guy, and people were kind of overdrafting him, overpaying him, and James Conner comes in and really takes a stranglehold over that backfield. And I get Chase Edmonds he wasn't terrible, like he didn't completely bust, but like now he's going to, there's another guy like Christian Kirk. This dude got paid. So are we going to follow the money here? Why? He's going to an offense, right? And if we're making the correlation between Mike McDaniel and San Francisco and Miami, San Francisco running backs didn't really catch the football. And that's what Chase Edmonds does really, really well. He catches the football. This is also a crowded backfield with Raheem Mostert and Sony Michel, both better in between the tackle rushers, I believe, than Chase Edmonds. They also have, in terms of contending for targets, Mike Gesicki, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Cedric Wilson. So where is this ceiling or upside coming for Chase Edmonds?
You hit on the pass catching. That's where Chase Edmonds has made his money in the past. And I know that there have been people who were all in on Chase Edmonds. I was not one of them last year. I was a big believer in James Conner, and I was also like frustrated by the Kenyon Drake.
Yeah.
I was spited back in 2020 when I was taking Kenyon Drake in like the 3rd round or 2nd round or whatever it was. But, I think it's the pass catching, and I think that there is like room for him to still get volume. Like I have Edmonds at 170, like 10 rushes a game, but like a 13% target share. And that's even in a lower pass volume offense, that's going to be 80 targets.
Wow.
We're talking 180 half-point PPR, which last year would be like running back 19. He could get injured, and maybe he gets fewer carries. Maybe it's 8 a game or 7 a game. But I still think that he's going to be involved in passing. Someone's got to catch passes out of the backfield, and
that's true.
The Dolphins went out of their way. He was the first running back signed in free agency and paid a good amount of money to do that.
Yeah, and if I'm going after a running back, it's Devin Singletary. He's the guy I'm like honing in on in this round of drafts.
Interesting. That's who Andrew Erickson brought up yesterday as a target as well. So great minds think alike. Awesome. All right, we'll keep going on values here. Round 10, my pick is Zach Ertz, and I keep picking on the tight ends. But I think in all of my research this offseason, you need an elite tight end or you just forget the position. And Zach Ertz is like the dead zone tight end, if there ever was one. He's going to consistently get you 8 to 12 PPR points, maybe 7 to 10 and a half PPR, but he's not going to win you weeks. He's a placeholder. He's just a guy. The Arizona Cardinals run some of the most 4 wide receiver sets in the NFL. And Zach Ertz, yeah, he got target share, but mostly after the DeAndre Hopkins injury. And he doesn't have a long ADOT. It's not like he's targeted way down the field. He's close to the line of scrimmage. I'm just not in on Zach Ertz this year as a tight end 10. Like in best ball, you're trying to get upside. Give me Mike Gesicki, who has upside, instead of Zach Ertz. Like that's the arbitrage, and Gesicki is going 3 rounds later.
Yeah, I like Zach Ertz to a point where he had the 3rd most targets at the tight end position. But as you alluded to, there was no DeAndre Hopkins when Zach Ertz really began taking off. Okay, so you got 6 games without DeAndre Hopkins, unless he appeals a suspension and gets that cut. But then you bring in Marquise Brown into the mix, the ascension of Moore. So there's a guy, I think they have Wesley on the team who played well down the stretch. So there's a lot of guys, a lot of moving pieces here. Let's not forget the fact that James Conner can catch passes. Darrell Williams can catch passes, kept CH off the field. So there's a lot here. AJ Green's still on a team. So for Zach Ertz to maintain the target share he had last year, it's going to take the unfortunate injuries to happen. And so we're really going to draft hoping other dudes get hurt?
Nope, that's a losing strategy. That's you finish 8th in your league strategy sort of thing. All right, let's keep moving on. Round 11.
Where does round 11 start pick wise? I lost my.
So that starts pick 120 and later. So for me, it's Kenny Golladay, Ronald Jones, Irv Smith, etc.
So we're getting to the point now where I want to draft for some upside or for some ceiling. So if I'm like out on a player in this range, I hate to say it, but like I'm done with McCole Hardman.
Yes,
I'm absolutely done with McCole Hardman.
I can invite you back onto the podcast now, Anthony, after that pick. Thank you.
The only McCole Hardman I'm going to still have in fantasy are all the shares I took in Dynasty when he came out.
Cool.
That's all I'm going to have left of McCole Hardman. If we're really going to wait now, okay, Tyreek Hill's got. If the Chiefs believed that McCole Hardman was going to step in that Tyreek Hill, well, they wouldn't have signed 3 other receivers.
I'll leave it at that. You said everything that needs to be said about McCole Hardman.
Like he's just a guy. He's just a really fast guy.
He is a really fast guy.
That's it.
I'm totally out on Mecole Hardman. All right, round 12. We'll keep it rolling here. Try to keep this at about an hour. Jameson Williams is my pick. Wide receiver 61, 134th off the board. And I want to take a second. I love Jameson Williams as a prospect. I think he's uber talented. I think he caught a real unlucky break with the ACL, but that's the whole reason why I'm fading him, is based on reports and progression. The earliest he can get back is like the end of October. And it's probably going to be mid-November by the time we see Jameson Williams back. And at that time, DeAndre Swift is established. TJ Hawkinson is established. Amon-Ra St. Brown is established. We saw at the end of last year, the Lions really established Amon-Ra St. Brown. And DJ Chark, I think, is going to be, he's a piece. He's a piece. And so for Jameson Williams, who's going to be missing all the offseason due to this injury and rehab, and he's going to miss the preseason games, he's going to miss those reps. It's really hard for rookies as well as wide receivers to get off to fast starts, even off the first couple games. Like Jameson Williams is more of a underdog pick if you want to stack with some of your Detroit Lions. But he's not like a season long, drafters fantasy type of player where I'm banking on him making a difference. You're really hoping that not only does he perform, but he performs well at the end of the season. You have to get to the end without him.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of Jameson Williams, but it's all in Dynasty and like you said, in best ball. If we knew we were going to get a full season out of Jameson Williams, I might rank him as my overall rookie wide receiver 1. He's that talented. Right. He's that much of a difference maker. But like you said, if he's not going to be back until maybe late October, there's not many guys who gives us the Odell Beckham Jr. treatment in their rookie year where they just come off and they're shot out of a cannon. Like people are expecting that of Rashad Bateman last year, and he was giving us double-digit PPR points as a floor. That's it.
Yep. I get it. Absolutely. Round 13. Let's keep it rolling here. This would be the Michael Carter's, Van Jefferson's, Robbie Anderson's of the world. I like a lot of players in this round.
Yeah, but if there's one I'm out on, I'm gonna stick with the tight end position, and I'm gonna fade Albert O. I'm a late round tight end guy to begin with, so if I'm gonna take a tight end in this round, especially, I'd rather take Gerald, who's attached to that offense with Justin Herbert. Not discounting Russ at all, but I already know that the tight ends are going to be fed in that offense. Like Jared Cook had a bunch of opportunities last year,
yes,
and now Gerald Everett finally comes in and could be that guy, could finally be that Hunter Henry replacement. I feel like there's a lot of question marks in Denver right now. Yeah, okay, they bring in Russell Wilson. All the reports are saying it's going to be higher pace, but where does Hackett come from? Hackett comes from Green Bay. And as great as Green Bay throws the football, they weren't exactly the highest volume throwing team. They were just really efficient. They actually like to run the ball in Green Bay. And what do they have in Denver right now? They have 2 really good running backs in Denver. So is there going to be enough volume for Albert O?
That's a question, because last season we saw Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon get receptions out of the backfield. And Albert O had an 8 or 10% target share. Yeah. But Noah Fant had 17% target share. And I think Albert O is one of those players that, he's not going to finish as tight end 15. He's either going to finish as tight end 30 or he's going to finish as tight end 5. I did my projections as he's going to be tight end 15, but that's projecting an 11% target share. Yeah. If he gets what Noah Fant got last year at 17%, this is a player who could get into the utmost echelon of tight end, but nothing's guaranteed. And there's a lot of love for Greg Dulcich out of Denver right now. And there are beat reporters who are saying Dulcich is going to play more snaps even to start the season than Albert O. And I'm hesitant to believe that, but this is one of those players similar to before we knew about Rob Gronkowski's retirement. There's no way Rob Gronkowski was going to be the tight end 11. He was either going to be a 0 or he was going to be a tight end 4. There's no in between. So I think this is the hedge right now that drafters are having. And if you have any questions about Albert O, it's okay to be out on him.
Yeah, there's just other late Gerald Everett, Hayden Hurst, Austin Hooper's that gem this year for me.
Ooh, interesting call. Interesting call. I've been burned by Tennessee tight ends in the past though, so I don't know if I could do it. But round 14. Round 14 for me, the fade is Gus Edwards. Give me Kenneth Gain in this spot. Give me Khalil Herbert in this spot. Give me David Njoku if we're drafting tight ends. Like, this is a round that I really like. Daniel Jones and Matt Ryan oftentimes fall in this round as well. Gus Edwards coming off the ACL. They already signed Mike Davis. They brought in Corey Clement. They drafted Tyler Beatty. J.K. Dobbins says he'll probably be ready for week 1. I don't know if I believe that, but there's a lot of, and Gus Edwards doesn't catch passes. There's not a lot of paths to success for Gus Edwards, even as a handcuff. So I'm looking elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm going to have very limited Gus Edwards exposure. He's a really, really good between the tackles rusher, efficient with the carries he has had in the past. But this is going to be J.K. Dobbins' backfield once J.K. Dobbins comes back. And you're right with all the other backs that Baltimore brought in. Is that a matter of J.K. Dobbins not being ready or Gus Edwards not being ready? And the caliber of the backs that they brought in, it really is it's suggesting to me that they're more worried about Gus Edwards, because I think if they're truly worried about J.K. Dobbins, why not make a larger play for Melvin Gordon?
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, let's hit on round 15, Anthony. We're getting to the bitter end here.
Now, round 15, again, I love late round players. So it's hard for me to find guys that I'm completely out on. But if I had to, I hate to do it.
Do it.
Noah Fant. I'm going to be, I wasn't a big Noah Fant guy to begin with. And now you're going to ship him. The same thing as I said about DK Metcalf. This whole Seattle offense, I get somebody has to catch footballs and somebody has to play quarterback, but let that headache be somebody else's problem. Like, what if it is Drew Lock? Like, we already know what Drew Lock and Noah Fant are together. It's like a rerun that I don't want to watch.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch that. The only caveat I'd say is Noah Fant got a 17% target share with Drew Lock as his quarterback.
But what did he do with those targets?
He had 2 tight end 1 overall weeks.
It's just that if there's one team every year that it just makes me cringe and see, like, there's nothing good I can. It's not like they're a bad quarterback with a good offensive line. There's nothing good.
Yeah, there's not a lot of redeeming qualities with Seattle, and they don't throw to their running backs very often either.
And I was burned by Gerald Everett last year a little bit. So, like, that's my...
Anthony's feeling a little salty. He's throwing the salt back on Seattle during the pod. My pick here in round 16, and this was made... I had already made the show sheet before last week, and this was all before the Kyle Rudolph signing in Tampa Bay. But Cameron Brate, is undraftable now. There's no reason for you to be drafting Cameron Brate now with Kyle Rudolph and Julio Jones signing. Look, Cameron Brate he's had 3 top 12 tight end weeks in the last 3 years, like something ridiculous. Like, even if he were to get a full-time role, when Rob Gronkowski was out last year, he averaged like 4 fantasy points a game. This was not a player that you should be in on at all. And anyone drafting Cameron Brate, shame on you. Anyways, hopefully hopefully your shares just stink along with your teams. Okay. All right. Finishes up, Anthony, your last pick, round 17. Who's your least valuable player there?
My least valuable player.
Or your worst value. You don't want to take them. Round 17, who is it?
KJ Hamler. We talked about these Denver players before, and yeah, it does seem like the theme is like I'm in on Cortland Sutton, I'm in on Melvin Gordon, and I'm in on Tim Patrick. Everything else is a crapshoot to me, and that includes KJ Hamler. And maybe it's not all KJ Hamler's fault, but the dude hasn't been on the football field enough for me to have anything to buy in on. And if I'm going to take a shot on a wide receiver who's been oft injured but could have some, I'd rather go get Paris Campbell, because at least we know Paris Campbell will be the starter in 2-3 wide sets, or at least 3 wide sets. KJ Hamler looking like the 4 right now.
It's true. The only way that KJ Hamler it becomes fantasy relevant is through injury, and we're not banking on injury. He's also like when he was playing in 2020, it was like a 12-13% target share. It wasn't an alpha. He's not built that way. And also the soft tissue issues. He's always struggled with those. All right, last round. I'm definitely not taking, no matter what. Gun to my head, can't do it. Jalen Guyton. And he's a popular late round pick with the attachment to the Chargers offense, which we love. We love the Chargers offense. We love Gerald Everett. We love Austin Eckler. We love Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, but I can't get behind Jalen Guyton. He was wide receiver 89 last year in yards per route run, wide receiver 89 yards per team at pass attempt, wide receiver 83 in true catch rate. This is a player who was given a lot of space and a lot of cushion and lost his job to Josh Palmer. And Josh Palmer is ascending. I don't know how good Josh Palmer is, frankly, but he's better than Jalen Guyton. There are other players that I'm willing to take shots on very late in the draft. Guyton essentially runs like the most routes that get the least targets. His air yard share was like 11%. And he was just running routes that were just run straight, stretch the defense like a fade. And he's not like a fantasy play.
There's other receivers who, again, Jalen Guyton might be the fourth on a depth chart. Like, why not Donovan Peoples-Jones or David Bell?
Thank you.
Who could be the 2 and 3 in a Deshaun Watson offense for at least half the year, depending on how this plays out. This is also what I call the lottery ticket round. How much Julio Jones I got in round 18 and underdog.
Beautiful.
I feel the same way. I have a lot of Will Fuller, a lot of OBJ. These are like OBJ isn't going to sign. I'm sorry, he's not going to sign with the Houston Texans. It's like Julio wasn't going. Like Julio went to try to go win a Super Bowl. OBJ's going to go try to win another Super Bowl.
Yep.
So even if you go to
they're going to be good teams
half the year, this is where you draft him when nobody else wants to.
Yeah, might as well take him, or you take like a Hassan Haskins. In Tennessee, the projected backup for Derrick Henry, which we know is going to be a good workload. You take a Laviska Shenault. He's a sleeper to lead the Jaguars in targets. I'm looking here as well at Braxton Berrios. Okay. Maybe a Snoop Connor. Like you as you mentioned, get your guy. I can't imagine a scenario where Jalen Guyton should be someone's guy.
Romeo Doubs, all the hype he's getting right now, and Christian Watson banged up.
Yes. These are take your 1% players, take your 2% what the field is drafting, take the one, I don't know. I do know I have a few of these players that take a Tutu Atwell. Lord knows if he's going to actually get a former second round pick who just got hurt last year.
Yeah.
There are players out there that have possible roles or significant roles, or maybe you completely faded tight end. You took 0 tight ends in like the first 14 rounds. So you go 4 straight tight ends to end. And Harrison Bryant is one of those tight ends. At round 8.
Brevin Jordan's free.
Brevin Jordan.
He has talent.
I love it. I love Brevin Jordan. So
Jawan Jennings.
Ooh, yes. Although, to be fair, I'll take an aside for a second. I was sent a trade offer yesterday morning, and it was Dante Fowler and Traquan Smith for my Brandon Ayuk. And what? I was like, I politely said, no, thank you.
Traquan Smith still in the league? I know he is, but like, really?
I politely said no, thank you, and then the person responded, well, like, I think that Juwan Jennings is going to outscore Brandon Ayuk, and I said,
why you want him?
Yeah, why do you want him, and why are you underpaying for him? And then that person said, I'll side bet with you. Juwan Jennings scores more fantasy points than Brandon Ayuk, and I said, the only scenario in which that happens is if Ayuk gets hurt.
Yeah.
There is no scenario in which Juwan Jennings scores more fantasy points. And the person said, we'll see. That's sometimes you just play in the fantasy leagues for fun little nuggets like that, Anthony.
I don't even have a word for that. Why are you trying to trade for him then? That's take it even further. I'll side bet you on that. Like, you really want this player
You're
that
doubling
bad.
down. Wow. All right, Anthony, I want to thank you for taking your time today. Where can the people find you? Drop the goodness on us.
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. A lot of my content's going to be spread out at bestodds.com and the Game Day NFL for betting and fantasy. And of course, fffaceoff.com for my rankings and for my podcast. We're going to be rolling 4 times a week.
Awesome. Great. I appreciate you popping in. And it's been a lot of fun going through these players that we're avoiding and volleying and bantering back and forth. And yeah, it's been awesome having you on the pod.
Awesome. I hope to come back.
That sounds great to me. You've been keep fading Mecole Hardman, and a deal's a deal. All right. On behalf of Anthony, I'm Bradley. Good luck in the best ball streets, everybody.